kind of a berm for...
Ready to go, Ken?
No, yeah.
Protection
Still
for the view.
spinning.
Yeah.
Still spinning, huh?
That's about it. But, you know, hey, as I say, you can't prevent them.
Okay, we're all set. Be out live.
Live from New York.
We can call, I'll see here, I'm gonna turn this thing on.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'd like to call to order a meeting of the Board of Selectmen of Summers. Today is Thursday, October 19th at 6 o'clock, and this is a regular meeting. We'd start off by stating the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So, roll call. First of all, we have, my right is Selectman Bill Meyer, my left is Selectman Bob Schmidt. We also have our CFO, Brian Wissinger. We have we don't have Chief Roach.
I wasn't sure if he was...
We have Library Director Joanne Nichting. Thank you. We have Jen Roy from who's the Assistant Land Use Director. And we have Carl Walton, who chairs the Zoning Commission. And we have Kim LaFleur, who's our Ops Director. And I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, that'd be good. Any public comment period? I think we don't have any public comment. Public that have showed up for that tonight. Presentation by the first selectman. There's a few things I'd just like to mention that are worthy, I believe. One is that Saturday is this coming Saturday is National Drug Take Back Day. There's a flyer that's put out, which I can pass around if you're interested. It's going to be at 400 Main Street. Fire Department is where they should be dropped off. This is for safely dispose of expired, unwanted, or unused prescription medications and other medications. They're also accepting syringes, vaping devices, and liquids. So this is a reminder to the public to please go through your medicine cabinets and your bathrooms and clean out, or your top drawer of your dresser, clean out your the items that you haven't used for years that you just don't need, and they're sitting around and should be disposed of properly. This is the first item. Next item is I wanted to mention the solar farm that is being proposed on the Bordeaux property off of, you seen this map?
No.
Okay, take a look. Bill's seen it, off of after Route 83. It's a farm, of course, it's been there for about 120 years. It's an old apple orchard. It's, I forget how many acres it is, but it's about 3.5 megawatts of power that would be generated from the farm. Of course, we have rights of ownership of property, of course, and the Bordeaux family can do whatever they want with the property, pretty much. But there is because the field is elevated, and when you drive by on Route 83, you can look over the trees and all and see the area that they're going to put solar panels. We asked for a public hearing. I asked for public hearing from Melanie Bachman, who's the executive director of the Siting Council in Connecticut, and she said usually we agree to such things if a first selectman asks for it. Of course, I'm not a party to the matter because this is really something before the Siting Council. But I think there are people in town that are concerned or would be concerned if they knew about this. So we need to, first of all, get a positive response from the Siting Council that they'll agree to a public hearing. The meeting of the Siting Council to determined this application is on the 9th of November. So there's not a lot of time here. And I believe they may have the hearing the same day as the meeting. I'm not sure yet. But I think what I'd like to do is be able to have both in this room and allow people to phone in from their homes if they want, because it's going to be a Zoom meeting of the siting council. They're not going to meet in person anyway. But if people have views about this farm, they should make them known. And the town, of course, will also have a presentation. I'll be speaking. And my personal belief is that we really have little control over this solar panel use of private property, first of all, except as to how it impacts things like wetlands, and if there's noise that comes from it, I'm not sure that we're going to have noise problems. I'm not aware of it. Or, again, the view of the farm itself, the solar farm, could be offensive to some people, and of course, it's not what they're used to seeing, and Summers, of course, is historically an agricultural town. This is taking probably, I'd say, 10 or 17 acres and turning it into a solar farm. So out of a total acreage of somewhere around 50 or 60 acres that the Bordeaux family owns. So I just wanted to make sure the selectmen were aware of that, and people in town were aware of that as well. There'll be further information about opportunities to tune into the public hearing, and if people have comments to make, they should be made then. And they'll be available at private homes as well as here in the auditorium at Town Hall, which we'll try to hook up the electronics to the Zoom meeting to allow people to speak right from a microphone here in this room. Okay. All right, next week we have the town is going to be presenting to the Senior Center on the 24th and to the town itself on the 26th on the subject of the bond referendum that'll be on November 7th, and so what the bond packages are all about. Answer questions that people may have. The town is not in a position, because it's been approved already by this committee and by the Finance Board, we're in no position to be advocates of the bond presentation, of the bond, being in favor of the bond, but we certainly can explain to the public as to what this vote is all about and what it will pay for in relation to the HVAC system, the senior high school, and the senior community center that we've created a committee to put together. We've met many times over the last year and a half, year and 3 months, to come up with a proposal for a senior community center which would replace the existing center and would be right behind the existing center. So we'll be doing that next week, October 24th, at the senior center at 9:30 in the morning, and in this room on the 26th at 6 o'clock in the evening. I just want to mention that yesterday morning, officials in town participated in a state emergency response drill, basically. Over 80 towns were involved. Towns had an opportunity to choose either yesterday or another day to do the drill, but every town was expected to do it. And this was a pretty sophisticated drill in that the state went ahead and formed the incidents in accordance with the town, the geography of the town, which made it pretty interesting. One of the problems we had was that one of the scenarios, there were about 5 of them, one of the scenarios was a train derailing. And of course you don't have any train tracks coming through town, but let's pretend that there was one. And the train derailed, and like in East Palestine, Pennsylvania, flipped over and emitted all kinds of noxious fumes, and you had to respond to that emergency. It was one of several, and said, for several scenarios that we had to go through. I must say that the fire department and police department and the emergency radio and public works all worked incredibly well together. I was really impressed. It was about a 4.5-hour exercise, and I think we did very well. Again, part of the whole purpose of the exercise is to go through the scenarios as to who would do what and how you would do it. And of course, there are other exercises we expect to have in the future to get the town used to responding, particularly people here at Town Hall, as well as the CERT team and others. But this was a great first step, and we had this yesterday morning at the fire station. Let's see. The Department of Transportation, Todd Rowland and I met with the DOT personnel with regards to the intersection of 190 and 83. The Department of Transportation would like to present to Summers residents their proposals for two options as to how to make the intersection more safe and more efficient. As you know, we get a lot of complaints about people that get stuck at that intersection at various times of the day, where it takes them extra time to get through it, and the town has approached the Department of Transportation because there are two state roads that intersect with each other. They're in charge, basically, and will pay for whatever improvements are made, if there are any. They would like to present to the public, to the residents of Summers, their two options. Actually, there are three options. One option is doing nothing, leaving it just the way it is. Another option would be reorienting the intersection so that it's more of a direct across. It would take out the gold building, by the way, so that would be gone. Because it's an historic building, it needs to be saved if the state project occurs. The individual owner himself can take it down if he wants, but if the state's involved and the state takes it down, they need to save the building because it's supposedly, I've been told it has an 1830, 1840 foundation, and the original building dates back to that. There are two wings on it right now. The building hasn't been used for 22 years. So the two scenarios that change things would both remove the gold building from its current location. One would keep the lighting system, but make the intersection more direct each way, so you wouldn't move around like you have to do right now. The other option would be a rotary that would move traffic through the intersection. So that's going to be on the, on November 28th from 6 to 7 p.m. The realignment proposals of the Department of Transportation will be presented
Here?
Here, in this room. Talking about Route 83 and Route 190 intersection. This was a presentation they expected to make back in March of 2020, over 3.5 years ago. They didn't make it because of COVID, and since then they've changed people, and it took us a while to get it all restarted because new people had to understand what the issues were, what they were presenting. It took us a while to get some motion there, but I think this is certainly a priority, I think, of mine, and a priority for the town, that we need to make that intersection better than it is. I think it would help businesses, it would help residents. Some businesses are not supportive of it, so we know that there will be people that come in and just say, I think it's fine just the way it is, no need to change anything, and that's obviously their point of view.
So it's the 28th,
28th of November at 6 o'clock, right?
Thank you.
In this room. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
I just have one thing to add.
Go ahead.
Last week, I attended the fire department's, annual award banquet. At that banquet, several members were recognized. Just a couple I would point out, Deputy Chief Greg Smith was recognized for, 25 years of service to the department. Deputy Chief Keith Allard was recognized for 40 years of service to the department. And past Chief Ed Pagani was recognized, for 40 years of service, to the department and the community. Also, recognized as firefighter of the year was firefighter Sam Corview. And, EMS member of the year was, Cadence Bidwell. So, job well done by them. Certainly, on behalf of the community, thank you for all your service, and, just wanted to recognize them.
Very good.
And a job well done, so,
Very nice.
thank you.
I'm glad you were able to attend. Congratulations. Consent agenda. I don't believe we have anything on the consent agenda tonight. Opportunity to add urgent items, agenda items. Do we have any of those? No. No.
You have one, though,
Which is Taylor.
resignation.
Oh, we have the, I would like a motion to,
You have it, I have it.
give a copy of that. Yeah, we just got word of this morning, so, right, just happened today. So, we have a request from Taylor Setzler, who is the, prevention coordinator for our Human Services Office, and, she wants to resign. Based on the fact that she just doesn't think it's a good fit, she's not comfortable doing the job, she thinks there's too much work, and I'd like to just read her letter that she wrote today. It says, "Good afternoon, everyone." She addressed this to
Her colleagues.
her colleagues, okay. As of today, I have resigned from the position as prevention coordinator in the town of Summers. I want to thank you all for your support and also apologize if I have put any strain on your work in my time here. If you have any questions or there is anything I can do for you all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and use her telephone number. Thanks again, and I wish you all the best, Taylor Setzler. So we have had a couple of sessions, HR-type sessions with her this week. We've talked to her, we've talked to her supervisor. I think she's just a little bit overwhelmed with the responsibility of the job, and we wish her well, and that's all. So we needed a motion, first of all, to add it as an agenda item.
I'm happy to make a motion to add the resignation of Taylor Setzler to the agenda.
Second that.
All right, any further discussion? And all those in support of the motion to support the to recognize and support the resignation of Taylor Setzler, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
So I guess I'll make a motion just for discussion purposes, to accept the resignation of Taylor Setzler from, her position as a prevention coordinator.
Yeah, I guess the first motion should have been, to add it as an agenda item.
Yeah, which we did.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
good. And that's, I'll make a motion for
Right.
discussion to, accept her resignation.
Right. Do a second for that.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, we got what, 30 days notice, I would assume?
Today's her last day, she left at noon.
No, she just decided to leave today.
She had anxiety, she just...
Walked off the job.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but,
Well, I mean, quitting same day is essentially walking off your job. I mean,
Yeah.
no notice.
Well, I think there was some disagreements with her supervisor. I think some of her fellow employees. Kim was involved with many hours of discussion with both Taylor and her supervisor, and I think it's in the town's best interest, personally, to accept the resignation and get on with hiring someone else who can do the job.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with accepting the resignation. I mean, but I think that it may point to a deeper issue, so I think that may be something you know, that, I mean, I'm concerned, number one, I mean, this is the largest competitive grant the town's ever received.
Of course.
And, you know, I wanna make sure this grant's not in jeopardy.
Matthew and I talked, and he's following up with everything.
Yeah, we're-
Doing the training tonight.
I mean, there's one single person that went to
Right.
all of the required DFC training sessions, and she just resigned.
As did
Well,
Matthew.
He didn't attend all the sessions.
Well, all of them, but
Yeah, well-
he's dedicated to this, so.
I mean, okay, I have some concerns, and,
Well, I think we're all concerned, I
Yeah.
think, it just hasn't worked out.
He already he reached out to, somebody today that,
well, I'm not interested, like, I mean, I know, yeah, we can try and hire someone, put a Band-Aid on it, whatever, I mean, but I think that there may have been some more underlying issues that precipitated this, as opposed to it just not working out, and I'm a little concerned about that, and I think,
Dorothy Ruggiero, does that name, reached out to him today, has some people in mind, so,
Okay.
that was,
I mean, I've heard some concerns in the community too, and I wanna make sure that
understood.
we have
Maybe you should reach out to Matthew and talk to him too.
yeah, well, I think I'll connect with you, I mean, next
Absolutely.
week,
We can
and
talk
we
about
can chat, but,
Yeah, I'm not sure it's all that beneficial to talk about the details in public.
no, I'm not saying, suggesting we do,
Yeah.
I don't wanna accept the resignation, move on and have someone here in 2 weeks to hire, 'cause I think there's a bigger issue here than, you know, than that. I don't wanna just move on quickly on to the next thing. I'll follow up offline, but I think that,
We can talk.
yeah, we can talk. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, thank you.
There's no, she's not eligible for a severance or anything, correct?
No.
Okay, just wanna make sure, especially if you're not leaving in good standing.
Yeah, not only that, but, the handbook, anyone hired after July 1,
They don't get paid
2022 does not receive any payout of sick or vacation time, so
But we have a policy that you need to give 2 weeks' notice.
I believe it's at least 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it, yeah.
I just wanna make sure, I
Professional
mean-
courtesy, I mean, that's what I think most businesses, operations
Yeah, but I mean,
require.
typically, this person would be considered leaving in bad standing and not eligible for rehire. I just wanna make sure
Yep.
that's noted as well.
Yep.
But, I mean, we can talk, so,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, all right, thank you.
Finance, any transfers and appropriations?
None.
None. CFO Finance Report updates.
Yeah, so it's, two things for you. The first one, the September 21st meeting, Board of Selectmen, you guys approved the 3 capital items, the gear washer, the exhaust system, diesel exhaust ventilation system or whatever it's called, and the gear racks. The following Tuesday, when the Board of Finance met, during their capital updates, they went ahead and added the 3 of those to their items to approve, and approved them unanimously so that they could begin moving forward rather than waiting, months and months to go through the processes. So those have now been approved. I've instructed Chief Roach to put together an RFP for the exhaust system. That has to go out to a formal bid. And to get quotes on the gear washer. He's spoken to one vendor who has had multiple calls from multiple departments involving the same piece of equipment. So they're looking at a like a group discount rate, instead of it being a $55,000-$60,000 gear washer. If they can get 6 or 8 departments on board all at the same time, the cost would go down in the $30,000 to $35,000 range. So we may save a little bit of money in that sense on that one.
Right.
And then the second thing at Board of Finance last month, I had proposed the creation of a new debt service fund. The board, reviewed everything and is still discussing and deliberating it, so it's not moving forward at this juncture tonight, but to give you guys a heads up on it, when they approve, if they approve, the creation of the fund, it would come in front of you, in front of this board to create an ordinance to set the legislation around how the fund acts. This being a long-term debt service fund, would need to be bound by special rules and regulations, so it can't just be a simple fund creation. There are tax implications if you don't handle the fund
Could you
properly.
just explain to the board what the fund would do?
The fund would pay for current and future debt service, but what it would do is allow the smoothing of any future debt issuance with the mill rate. So rather than having new debt issuance and having spikes in your mill rates and ups and downs year after year, it would smooth that process and create little to no tax impact on the general fund by transferring funds in annually, creating reserves that could then be used to pay for future issuance costs and future debt costs as well.
Would that be beneficial with the HVAC and community center coming up?
It'd be beneficial for that and any other
Everything
future
else.
debt as well.
Yeah,
but I'm just
30 years
saying-
from now, when I'm not here, it'd still be beneficial.
No, but I'm just saying,
Yep.
that would be the first thing coming up, that we could see the results of this plan.
Yep, so I did demonstrate for the Board of Finance, they wanted to see some estimates on it, and so using the same exact numbers, if without the debt service fund, you would see anywhere from 0.75 to a 1 mil increase in a 3-year period, versus using the debt service fund over a 9-year period, you would see a 0.12 mil increase. So the variance between needing a mil tomorrow versus needing a tenth of a mil in 10 years is really what it boils down to.
So when you say that, you're talking about is for the current proposed bond issuance?
For total, what the total debt cost would be for the next 10 years, yes.
Yeah, any borrowing we do in the future, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know of any borrowing in the future other than that one, but current debt plus what the cost of the potential new issuance would be, yes.
We might expect other borrowing in the future, right?
I mean, I would assume so. There's always projects that,
Right.
we're gonna have a fire in.
How do you
and-
factor those bonds into, the debt service for those bonds into this new system? How do you?
I mean, they would be factored in when we had an estimated amount at this time. I mean, we know that we're gonna need a fire truck in a few years, but we don't have any kind of dollar figures on that, so we can't even estimate that out at this time. Todd has talked about issuing debt to finish paving roads in town. We don't have
Right.
necessarily a solid number on that at this time.
If you just gave us an example of this 3/4 of a mil or a mil
Yep,
versus .12
right,
mils
Well, I'm glad
over
because
the
that's
same period
something
of time.
that's,
right.
Yeah.
So the difference really boils down to a smoothing transfer rather than, next year reducing our cost, and then the year after that reducing our debt service costs, and the year after that reducing our debt service costs, and then issuing new debt, and it spikes back up a mil, because now you're down in 1.3 range, and now you're jumping back up to 2.1.
Okay.
The difference is, you stay at 1.7, 1.7, 1.7, and you build up reserves, and then in 4 years, when you issue the new debt and it comes due to pay, you don't need more cash, it's
Right.
there. And so you continue making your payments, and rather than needing that 0.89 in 4 years, you don't need anything, it's
What
sitting
you're
in
saying is
reserves.
.17 every year?
No, I'm saying over a course of 10 years.
Okay.
But we're starting with,
It sounds great, but.
sounds good, but we're starting with zero though, right?
We would start with with next year's budget, potentially. We would transfer in $1.7 million. Our actual debt service cost is like 1.62, I think, so we would sit on $80,000. That would be in the reserves, and then the year after that, it goes down to 1.59. And we would still transfer 1.7, so we would add another 1.1, or 110,000. So we'd build up the reserves so that when we got to that peak year where we need a $2.3 million payment, we still only need 1.7 because we got 600,000 in reserves, and so it smooths it out rather than needing a $600,000 tax increase.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No, it sounds really good, because I remember you were talking about this when I was, several months ago, when I was sitting there talking about the roads, and, you know, that's one of the big things in my neighborhood. Our roads are falling apart, and it'd be really nice to start seeing if we could get something to, you know, for the roads and start building, you know, and we're not the only one, you know, that needs to have roads fixed.
I've been trying to work on this fund for about 4 years now, so
Yeah.
I don't want it to come across as it's new as of, you know, this debt issuance. I even tried to propose this before the last debt
Right.
issuance in 2020.
Right.
It just never gained any feet with leadership at that time, so.
Well, sounds like a good plan.
Okay, thank you.
I think the chances are pretty strong at the Board of Finance?
Yep,
Yeah, good.
yep.
Great. Any further reports or?
Nope, that's all I have.
Presentation of scheduled payments. Let's see.
$153,000.
Yeah, we need a motion.
I'll be happy to make a motion for the selectmen to approve the, payment in the amount of $153,296.59.
Second that.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? I have reviewed the list here. Had a few questions myself, but they were all answered by the finance office. I'm fine with the list, as presented.
I have no questions.
Anyone else?
Good,
Bill?
I'm good, yeah, I'm all set.
Okay.
Take a vote.
Oh, yeah, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously, thank you.
Thank you.
And we next have a update from the zoning commission chairman, Carl Walton, and Jennifer Roy, the assistant land use director of the zoning enforcement officer, on what's been going on with the zoning commission. I think the Board of Selectmen has decided in the past several months that we'd like to, on a continual basis, get an update on what's happening in the various commissions and boards and commissions. You know, what are the issues, what have you accomplished over the last 12 to 18, 20 months? What's your vision for the future? How the board is operating? Just to give us an idea of what you see as potential issues of concern. And I'll turn it over to you, Carl.
That's not really at all of everything I contemplated, but I don't think there's any mystery to what we've been doing, given the wineries and other things, updating the regulations. We're meeting our next.
Yeah, I must say that I think the zoning commission is probably one of the toughest jobs in the town.
I won't argue that with you.
Jen is tied to it, of course, as well, which means she gets beaten up left and right by all the various interests, and you guys have to conduct the meetings, which are long and arduous, and address the issues.
I mean, I think it's pretty much accepted that we're the commission that gets a lot of attention from the public, because in reality, we're the ones that tell them what they can and can't do with their property, which we collect taxes on, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason for the rules is evident. I mean, without them, it'd be chaos.
Absolutely. I have personal experience in the environmental arena, and without environmental rules, I mean, you would not see
And what makes it even worse
90% of what people are
is
now required to do. They wouldn't do
yeah.
it.
I mean, what makes it even worse is when we're totally misunderstood as to what we're trying to accomplish. Because we're trying to keep order, and we're trying to keep all the processes fair for everyone.
Right.
Carl, could you help me, the handicapped, in terms of what changes have you made in the last 6 months? Have you published that?
What do you mean?
Well, just, you said you had made some changes in the
Well,
rule,
the
Well, no,
zoning
we've
regs.
made some changes in the past
The town.
number of years, and we did a total rewrite of the regulation.
And when was that done? Because I didn't.
Year and a half ago, 2
Yeah,
years ago.
2021.
2020.
I mean, it's been a blur, Mr. Schmidt, because of the level of things that have come down the line at that time.
Right, well, I haven't been to all your meetings, but I've been to some, and there was a lot of discussion from the community about the need to make some changes and be more consistent, you know.
Okay, I would say that we are pretty consistent. There's misunderstandings
Okay.
by the public. One of the things that came up recently was, food trucks.
Yeah, that was one of the things, yeah.
We don't have an ordinance or a regulation to regulate food trucks in town.
Right.
So the comments were made that, well, my neighbor had a food truck for graduation.
Right.
But that's fine. I mean, it's just like if you had a child who was getting married, you want to have the wedding in your backyard. That's fine.
Right.
If you start doing it every weekend, then it's a problem.
You don't run a commercial operation
Yeah,
that
it's not
requires a food truck.
operation. In fact, you have an instance of it. The other comparison that came up in regard to that was that the town itself is utilized.
The what?
The town at the concerts.
Fort Town Fair and...
Yeah.
Well, the fair is a totally different entity in itself.
Yeah, the
because
concerts, I understand.
all of those things predate the existence of regulations.
Mhm.
So they'd be grandfathered in that regard. But in the case of the concerts over at the historical building, well, the town has standing ordinance that says that they don't have to comply with the regulations.
Okay.
Predates you guys. It's not something that the town ordinarily does, but it is a fallback in this case.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, me included, I'm ignorant to a lot of these things. And now that they've come up, you know, and you've brought it to our attention, I was just saying it'd be nice if we could just have something out there, and, you know, like you've just helped me here tonight with those two things, and if we could put those things out, those are good examples, you know, and those are perfect examples. And then that way people will see, you know, well, this is why,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're doing that. And, you know, the other thing that I had seen when I went to one of the meetings was this whole thing with the winery was the issue of noise, you know, and the problems with that. And they were asking, you know, you'd be able to, you know, have music up there for a period of time. And then people raised the question, well, what about Sonny's Place?
I can't explain Sonny's Place. I was a part of the zoning commission when it happened.
Yeah,
I was as surprised as anyone else when
it was
they started
approved?
promoting music the way they did.
Right,
I inquired and was shut down.
okay.
So, I mean, I don't have an explanation, but I don't think that's a fair comparison.
You don't?
These places on 190.
Yeah, but there's people that live next door to it,
Yeah,
not that far away.
my daughter and her husband used to live close enough
And
so that they were
I just heard
entertained.
from the people that live there that they hear it on a regular basis, and I'm just saying, if you're complaining about something up there, you know,
Well,
wineries.
I'm not complaining.
No, I'm just
either.
saying, there are people in town that are complaining about that, and to me, it's not even,
The people in that case who had something negative to say were the closest abutters to the
Correct.
applicant.
correct.
The people who had the most to say in support of the applicant live nowhere near there.
Well, I guess one lady I saw lived fairly close, and she said that she didn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
But, I'm just saying, I just think that maybe to help me, the handicapped, because I don't know a lot of these things, Carl, is if, you know, if something could be issued, you know, you give some examples of, you know, why things are not changed, and, you know, just so we, the public, can know where we stand, you know what I'm saying? And know how the ordinances are being applied, and why they're being applied the way they are, and then that way, it, you know, because, you know, we just got another large citation here.
Oh, I got it myself today.
Right. And, again, I get, because I'm a supporter, to be honest with you, of the winery,
As I am.
and I get, this is getting a little exhausting.
Okay. I can't argue that with you.
I don't know if I can interject,
Sure, I'd be happy to hear you.
because I'm a little confused at first if you're saying something to put out there. So zoning
Yes.
is unique in the way of zoning and zoning board of appeals, a town sets forth a set of zoning regulations, and then they put it into categories of zones. And then there's certain things that are allowed in certain zones. And I don't mean to speak elementary.
No, but that helps.
Tim and I talked, and he wanted me to just give
No, that helps me.
a little bit of an overview. So for us to put out examples, I don't really know that will help.
It doesn't help? Won't help
I
clarify?
don't think so. I think that my job as zoning enforcement officer and liaison to the zoning commission and the ZBA is to help provide answers and guidance to residents and the community. And if people have questions, come to me. Or if it's a specific, so there's regulations for each zone. There's things that are allowed in certain zones as of right, and then there's other things that are allowed with a special use permit, and that is where they have to apply to the zoning commission, come before the whole commission. The commission reviews the location and what they'd like to do, and if they see fit. And they have to hold a public hearing. So those are the times that the public should come forward and voice their concerns. And generally, they have to receive the application and then schedule a public hearing and do a legal notice. So there's about at least a 3-week time frame that the public can come into town hall or call me and discuss with me, what their concerns are or what their questions are about certain things. And it's hard to compare one location to another. People all the time will call me and say, I've got a shed, I want to put it right on, in the back corner. I say, well, you have to stay a certain distance off the property line.
Sure.
Well, my neighbor and how many other people in town have it, zoning's a little unique. It's not cut and dry, it's not black and white.
Well, I think that's the thing that kind of has been, to be confusing to a lot of us, is that, we're seeing, with what's happened with the winery, what looks to be, I'm not saying it is, but what it looks to be to some people is that there's an inconsistency there, in how things are being applied. And I think that's what people are concerned about, and they'd like to see, maybe they just don't know,
We also have the whole, almost entirely, 2/3 of our commission is new, and so they're gonna look at things with a different perspective than maybe prior commission members. So every decision is not gonna, it's not cookie cutter.
Okay.
But.
Well, I guess what I'm just saying is, as things come up again, if we have another situation like with a winery, I would hope that we would, again, just have the ability to make sure that everything is clear as possible as to this is what is going on and this is why we're doing it this way, and to just keep that as clear as possible. Because to me, as a resident, we're confused.
Well, the procedures are very clear.
Yeah.
In the public hearing, and with the certain recent highly contentious applications that have been before the zoning commission, the procedures are clear, and people are always welcome to call me. And so if we're talking in general about advising or informing, educating the public, we've, Todd Rowland and I have discussed with Tim and Kim possibly putting some type of article in, Summers Connects, that's the name of it, about zoning in general.
Right.
And, the commissions.
Right.
We do our best to inform people.
No, but I'm just saying, this helps the handicapped to me and others, that we're not, up on these things, and we're not clear all the time, and we're not, I don't always go to all the meetings to, get the clarification that I need. I do try to watch them at home, if I can't make them. But the thing is, just saying is, the clearer we can be, I think the better it is. And if there's any way that you can put something out there to help folks, and I don't think people are trying to be nasty about it, I just think they don't know.
Right.
And that's where I am. I don't know. And if the more you can do to help me, who is not educated in these areas, and to make it clearer, I think would be in everybody's,
I'm always willing to sit down with anyone and discuss.
I know you are. You sit down with me all the time, and you're very helpful.
And that is why the commission did what we've done in the last, year and a half, 2 years, probably a little bit longer than that. The regulations were effective May 1st, 2021. Right. I feel like it was at least a 12-month process, if not an 18-month process of, meetings once or twice a month with our consultant to try and returned, I think there was maybe, let's just say, off the top of my head, 90 pages in our zoning regulations. There's now 214.
Oh, wow.
We have tried to really reorganize it, spell things out, and in the end of our regulations, there's a whole chapter with procedures for someone who wants to apply for either zoning application, or that's why municipalities have the zoning board of appeals if they think something, should vary.
That's great, I mean, I appreciate that. I was just talking about the few things that came up with the Worthington situation.
Some stuff we're not gonna avoid.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, anything we can do to help me and the other people in the public, so we're clear on what exactly the rules are, and if you can clearly state wherever, you know what I'm saying, at a meeting or somewhere, that we are following the rules, and we have been, and we're consistent, and then when people raise questions about a lack of consistency, I think you need to make sure that you're still following the rules correctly. Because unfortunately...
I don't know what you mean, rules, I mean, there's procedures in state statutes.
Whatever guidelines, whatever your guidelines, or whatever you use to make your recommendation.
If the commission, moves to approve, like a special use permit.
Yes.
They, it's within their purview to lay out conditions if they.
Okay, so they can add.
It could be one condition, it could be 10 conditions, like Hillsdale had certain conditions, and they followed them,
Yes.
and then they came back,
Single one.
and they recently came back in the past couple of months and asked for modification, and, So it's, again, like I said, it's not gonna be a cookie cutter.
Right.
It depends on the location of the property and what they're asking for.
Well, I understand. And I think what we need...
There can't be consistency because it's a different location.
Well, I think that needs to be clear to people, and what you're saying helps, right now. You're helping me understand that, each situation is different, and that and the rules can be applied differently based on each individual case. And I think that needs to be stated,
I don't know that it's a fair statement to say that the rules are applied differently in each.
Well,
because
your interpretation of it.
There are different circumstances.
Yeah, well, okay, whatever the conditions are that cause you to make a ruling in the way you do.
And the circumstances do change over time, and
They do.
as a
And
result of practice.
as have the regulations.
Right, as a result of practice.
I mean, I'm one of the first people to recognize that in the case of food trucks, we probably need to amend the regulations and come up with a way to allow them,
Right, that's
Okay.
that's one of the examples that comes to mind, yeah.
as we did with wineries, because prior to the commission coming up with the regulations that allowed them, we didn't allow them.
Right. Okay, well, that's great.
And it was identified as a way for us to continue to promote open space use of property as opposed to development, to give the landowners something they could do with it.
Well, thank you. That's just my confusion, and I think that's where other people had.
And I would encourage any of you, if you have a question about something that's going on with us, call me, call Kim, Jen.
Yeah,
I'm just curious in general, how you see things moving along. We've talked about what you've accomplished in the last 18 to 20 months based on changing the entire zoning code for the town, and had some very controversial cases before you during that time as well. Took up a lot of your time, a lot of effort.
Well, in the case of the winery, it looks like it's gonna stay right there in our purview for the foreseeable future, because...
Yeah, there's still things you're looking at, in other
Which
words.
was for the thought process.
Temporary.
The commission put in effect the farm, like, for example, the farm winery, section to allow it, and it was common discussion throughout the process that we'll revisit it and elaborate on it, which the commission has the purview to do, or any resident or business owner has the right to do by application. So we had a few other issues that we were dealing with, that we hadn't had time to revisit it yet, and the winery owners have.
Once the application process is started, per se, if they apply, no matter what we do to the regulations, but after they apply, it doesn't affect them. It has to be the same. That's the only way it can be. Otherwise, if it went against them, they would say, oh, you changed the regulations, you made it against us. We don't want to do that.
So what do you see coming up in the next 12 months or whatever? What are you gonna be working on? What are your...
Well, the first things that we're gonna be working on are to try and get an adoption of a affordable housing regulation. I know that you've already started a conversation with
Dave Penny?
Glenn Chalder and with Brett.
Right.
I would be happy to participate. I wasn't available the day that you guys started.
Okay.
We have already approved an affordable housing development in Summers. It was about 10 years ago. It was never built. It's going to be a major education to get the people to understand what affordable housing means, because you say affordable, they think low income.
Right.
It's not what it is
Section
at
8
all.
housing.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
The town's been dealing with that for 30 years. I'm aware of it.
We now have condominiums. I'm not sure that everybody's aware of that, but we do.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So, that's a great topic, and I'm glad that you're willing to spend time on that, and I'm interested in it, and I think the town needs to move forward and come up with an affordable housing policy that people understand why we have it,
Well,
what it does for the town.
yeah.
I think it's another positive, and as you know, the Somersville Mill site had a specific zone placed on it, 5 or 6 years ago, and we have an applicant coming in that is interested in building 80 units on that property. They haven't made any kind of presentations yet, because they wanted to, I think, strengthen their position as best they could before they did that, and negotiate with the town as the town meeting, including zoning and planning, and the Board of Selectmen, as to how it might be put in place. Negotiate whether to purchase the property or to lease it, how to build the site, whether the site is authorized. And they decided that they wanted the town to step in and remediate the site to the extent that it was possible for the town to get additional grant money from the state, which is what we're pursuing right now through the Department of Economic and Community Development, who did provide us up to close to $2 million 5 years ago to clean up the site.
I was under the impression that the site had been cleaned.
Yeah, I know. Actually, so was I. But there's some additional work that needs to be done just to investigate to what extent the so-called pollutants that are underground are moving in any particular direction. What was the origin of the pollution? Some very specific questions need to be answered, and it costs money, and the town can apply for a grant and get the state to pay for it. So Wynn Properties, W-I-N-N, Wynn Development, who's interested in developing the property, would like town to pursue getting that assistance from the state, which we're doing right now. And I think we're likely to be successful, I believe.
Well, I can only say that from what I know of the plan from what I saw, it looked good.
Yeah, I think we'll hear more about it.
The direction that it had been discussed from the
We'll allow
get-go.
the Wynn people to make their presentation to the community, and they can understand better what it will do for the community as well.
And we had tentatively set up in July, a joint meeting.
That's right.
Of the planning and zoning and probably the Board of Selectmen. We had a tentative date to have a meeting, a special meeting, which would then, for them to come in
Right, and Wynn just
demonstration
didn't
about that
feel it was in their best interest to move
at that time.
Right.
So that would be coming before zoning and planning.
Sometime, hopefully the next 6
I mean,
months.
and since then, it's come out of comments from the public that I'm aware of. The big concern is they don't understand what it means to have affordable.
Exactly. It's exactly the issue.
Misunderstanding or lack of understanding will be the biggest thing to overcome.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
that's
There
where
needs to be
I
an
come from.
education, there needs to be a presentation as to what affordable housing is, the scope of affordable housing, what it means, what it can do for the community, what are the pluses, what are the minuses.
But I think the biggest thing that they really are hung up on is that it doesn't mean poverty-level people are gonna flock to Summers. And that's their fear.
I understand that. That was, we were accused 30 years ago of becoming another Bridgeport.
Right.
People were screaming at the presenters. It was,
Well, thank you, I appreciate it, and help, I'll keep asking questions, and
Absolutely.
I'll encourage other people to do the same thing, so we can keep things, so everybody's...
Well, I don't know if we want all of those people.
Well, I'm just saying,
Or just be
the
answering
people
questions.
that are confused as I am, you know what I'm saying, and to come forth and ask for clarification.
I just have a couple things. So number one, thanks for coming down tonight. Number one, I want to recognize, your commission, all volunteer members. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of nights. Sometimes a lot of aggravation, and we appreciate it. There's a lack of willingness of people to serve. Those who have stepped forward and agreed to serve, we're certainly very appreciative. I just want to make sure that doesn't go unnoticed, because I think sometimes when the contentious issue is before the board, personal opinions aside, the people on the board or the people in the audience on both sides, they're doing what they think is right, and we just may not agree. So, I think, continuing, which we've done a good job with, but continuing to respect the integrity of the process. I think the rewrite of the regulations was a great positive step. I think that, it's highly regulatory. It's one of you're first, a lot of the boards that are gonna come before us, they're advisory, they're subordinate to us. In your case, we appoint the members, as you know, and you have your own statutory and regulatory authority, that's divorced kind of from the board.
And I think in actuality, it's a good thing for you.
It has to be.
Because there's no win for you guys.
It has to be. Yeah. Yep.
Short-term wins maybe, but the next issue comes along and you're the bad guy.
It was designed deliberately by the legislature to keep politics out of zoning, to kind of give a layer of insulation, like you explained, some of the processes. But the other thing I think that we should keep in mind, I don't know that we've always exercised, is the ability of us to regulate things by ordinance. So, obviously there's zoning regulations in certain cases and in certain applications, an ordinance may be appropriate. And I think in those, we just need to make sure that we're aware, we identify the issue proactively, we draft the ordinance, we go through the process, that's within our purview, to adopt ordinances, bring them forward, a public hearing. But I think some of the matters, and some future matters, could potentially be handled by ordinance. The marijuana, I think was one, that was
nothing that really we wanted to make a decision on, because we felt that was a greater issue than zoning.
Yeah, but there's a few other issues. I don't want to list specific issues. I'm talking in generalities.
Yep.
But there are a couple other issues where I think there are other tools where we can transparently and clearly just set the rules for our community. What those rules are, and then people just have to work within that framework.
And the property maintenance ordinance.
Yeah, that's another good example.
We did that a few years ago.
Exactly, a property and
honestly, Bill, even the food trucks could be covered by an ordinance, probably better.
Noise could be covered, there are...
Noise is covered by an ordinance.
Yep, but sometimes we need to look at them again, is the ordinance adequate? You just updated the zoning regs, maybe some of the ordinances need to be looked at. So, those conversations, I think, between the boards, maybe it's fine, but I think it's worth revisiting. We just did some regulation around conduct in parks regarding alcohol, open containers, we just regulated, marijuana use on public property, things like that, that previously weren't, so.
Right.
Good, but thank you, and thanks for coming in, and,
it's not a new thing for me. I've been involved with this longer than I care.
for a long time.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Yes.
Anytime.
Thank you, thank you.
Jim.
Great. Next, we have pending business. Pending business, I think we have no pending business. We have new business. We first are asked to accept the resignation of firefighter Christopher Uhar, effective October 24th, 2023. I know Christopher Uhar personally. He's comes from a fine family. He's an outstanding firefighter. We're sorry to lose him. He's moving to California to chase his girlfriend, basically. That's what I've been told. I shouldn't be saying that on here, but it's not a bad place to go, by the way. I must say. He may return to Summers. Who knows? But for the time being, he is leaving the state and would like to resign from the fire department. And he has an outstanding record for the last couple of years he's been working there.
Absolutely.
Volunteer and most recently a part-time permanent employee, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very good. Yeah.
good record.
So we need a motion to accept his resignation.
Happy to make a motion to accept the resignation of firefighter Christopher Uar with an effective date of October 24th, 2023.
Second that.
Any further discussion?
Just echo your comments.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, great,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay, all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, thank you. Next, library staff request. Ms. Nick Dean.
Hello.
Hello.
Actually, I can just read this letter, that'd probably be the best way to do it. I'd like to, make a recommendation to hire Ms. Taylor Reynolds for the position of Children's Library Assistant. This position assists our Assistant Director, Youth Services Librarian Murray Stromwell with library services for teens and young children. The previous employee that held this position opted to be moved to the circulation area of the library when a vacancy became available there in that restructure that we did most recently. The new employee will start at a rate of $16 per hour, which results in a savings from the higher rate of pay received by the previous employee who had been with the library for several years. It will consist of approximately 18 hours each week, and we've agreed on a start date of November 20, 2023. And the applicant, Ms. Reynolds, has been home with an infant son for the last year. She's now interested in working part-time. Prior to having her son, she was working for 7 years as a third-grade teacher in Lincoln, Mass. She holds a master's degree in elementary education from Smith College and a bachelor's degree in politics and gender studies from Mount Holyoke College. She hasn't worked in a library before, but, we're really excited with working with somebody with that background in education and working with children. And she also coaches a field hockey team, so she's working with teens. And she had a great personality. She came in, we liked her right off the bat. She was the first person that we interviewed and was kind of the one to beat, and nobody beat her, so.
Does she live in town?
She lives in East Long Meadow. She's originally from Long Meadow, Mass. She went out to Eastern Mass with her job, and now, after having her son, her and her husband have decided to come back and be closer to family. So she actually lives, I could walk to her house in about 5 minutes from my house, so I suppose we could carpool if we needed to. So, we really liked her a lot. We're excited to have her start. She won't be able to start, like I said, till November 20th because she still has a commitment with the field hockey team, which, we respect that.
Sure.
And so we're looking forward to having her join our team.
Thank you. Yeah, just
Great.
before we make the motion, just briefly, I had the chance over the weekend. I was with some of your board members, both current and aspiring members, and had a great conversation about all the great work the library's doing. So, around the programming, around some of the kind of the exciting things that are happening there.
Yeah.
So, thank you for your effort and energy there, and
Thank you.
Make the motion that we hire Taylor Reynolds as the Children's Library Assistant with an hourly rate of $16 and a start date on Monday, November 20th, 2023, as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
See you for the budget in a couple months.
Yeah.
Don't sound so excited.
Actually, it's a piece of cake.
It's gonna be old hat pretty soon. All right, next item on the agenda is an update by myself on the human resources position. As you know, at our last meeting, just prior to the meeting, we had an interview with the person who we agreed to hire full-time as a human resources person. And she met all of our requirements, and even though there was a question about whether we had a full-time position with regards to all the work that needs to be done. The thinking was that she was certainly capable of doing not only that work, but other work that is assigned. So, the fact that we made a decision that the town indeed does need a human services person. The question is, how do you get one? So, Commissioner, Selectman Meyer made the comment that, you know, maybe the problem is that we're offering too many hours for a part-time position. And I think that's got a lot of merit to it. I mean, we were trying to bring someone in at 28 hours, which is just a few hours short of a full-time position. And, you know, who wouldn't want a full-time position that was going to work that many hours to begin with? And the thinking was that, gee, there are some people out there in the marketplace that only want to work a few days a week and are human resources people, trained, experienced, and would love the opportunity to work for a town like Summers. So I took upon myself to go ahead and tell our consultant, Kathy Lampkin, to go ahead and see what we can find in the range of 15 to 20 hours with regards to a human resources person, and certainly we can fill up the time. And if it's particularly important for the town, we can maybe offer more hours after the fact, but at least we'll start out at the right level. So she and I have been communicating with each other, and she said last Friday, she sent me a note saying wanted to provide an update. Job was posted on October 11th, 2023. 14 people applied, 10 have been rejected and sent emails. 2 have been contacted with the same questions. Her approach is to review the applicants, decide which ones qualify, then send them questions to have them answer the questions. And then she evaluates the answers and decides whether or not they warrant an interview. So she says, we have 2 people that have been contacted and sent questions. Both have confirmed part-time interest. I have sent them a question confirming that they are truly interested in part-time. Then she sent me another email earlier this week, actually yesterday, saying there are 6 applicants now that she sent questions to, and she's had responses, I think, from 1, and the due date on the question and answers is next Monday. So things are moving along. I think that's a good point. I think we're getting there, and I think it's indeed, Bill, you were correct that we really don't need a full-time person. We don't think we need a full-time person anyway. But the problem is, how do you get an HR person in here without offering a full-time position? It's kind of like looking for a building inspector. You can't just go out and ask to hire a part-time building inspector. You know, people just aren't interested because of the demand in the marketplace. But in this case, I think the fact that we're offering 15 to 20 hours for part-time work may be attractive to some people that have the skills that we need to do the work. So that's basically where we are. And I know, Bob, we've talked, I know you're interested in a full-time person, but I think we need to start with the part-time person and see how that works out, and we can take it from there. And by the way, if this part-time approach doesn't work,
Exactly.
we go back to full-time. I mean,
It's a continuous improvement process, no question.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no question.
So we're trying to learn ourselves as we go along
Exactly.
as to what we can accomplish and for the best price, most affordable. All right. Okay, does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it's a changing workforce, and I think there's a lot of people that either, are partly staying at home, like the individual that we just hired for the library, that may be interested in just 1 or 2 days, like you said, or people that are starting to ease into retirement who have a lot of experience but still want to work for 4 or 5 more years, or, that this may be appealing to. So, and I think we can be a little bit flexible, and it may be appealing.
Well, I hope we are flexible.
Definitely.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We need a motion to approve the minutes from
Wait a second.
the October 5
We
regular
have
meeting.
the Taylor Setzler
No, we already did that.
We did that, we approved that? We
Yeah.
did that? Okay, we're all set with that one?
Yeah.
That's okay, I didn't know that's already approved, okay.
So we need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 5, our last regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
That's just you and I, right? Was that just?
Yeah,
the
just
two of
you
us?
and I.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen as presented.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion on the motion? I've reviewed the minutes, by the way.
Correct.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
We have one abstention.
One abstention.
Wasn't here, right?
Yeah.
Can't vote if I wasn't here.
You abstained, all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whatever you like, whatever you want me to do.
There's one running down to ask you, okay? You don't want to give us that option. Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yep, make the motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
What's that?